For a couple of months, I took a lot of crap from people because I predicted, uneducated guess, but I predicted for several months that the number one box office film of the year worldwide at the end of the day for 2023 was going to be the Super Mario Brothers movie. And everybody talked to me like I was crazy. Now, after I saw the movie, I walked that back. I said, you know what? It's great. It's going to be very, very big. It's going to be huge, but probably Fast 10 or maybe an Indy 5 or something like that will be the biggest film of the year. Maybe I shouldn't have walked it back because Mario Brothers is absolutely dominating in several ways. First of all, at the box office this weekend, you can bring this up, Jonathan. At the box office this weekend, Super Mario Brothers, let's go to my screen. Super Mario Brothers made $87 million at the box office in its second weekend, which, by the way, on its second weekend is more than John Wick's record-breaking opening weekend was. John Wick 4's opening weekend was $74 million, which was a franchise record for it. Super Mario Brothers on its second weekend. Look at this, but this is the number that is stunning. A 40.6% drop. To put that in context, generally speaking, you've done well if you make a 50 to 60% drop. If you drop over 60%, that's a little bit concerning. A 40% drop. And here's, to give it more context, is what makes this particularly notable. The more money a movie makes in its opening weekend and week generally will mean a lower second weekend because everybody's gone out to see it. Spider-Man No Way Home, I believe, had like a 68 to 70% drop second weekend. Avengers Endgame had like a high 60% drop. Again, it was just because it had such a massive, massive opening weekend that almost everybody who wanted to see it had seen it already. Now you're just talking about repeat business. The Super Mario Brothers made like over the first 5 days, 177 million just domestically. That's a big opening. So you would go, okay, so like a 60% drop second weekend, 62, 63% drop. That would be totally acceptable because it had such a big opening weekend, right? Normally you don't want to see a 61, 62, 63% drop, but for a Super Mario Brothers that made that much opening weekend and its opening week, yeah, totally understandable if it took a 62, 63% drop. That would be perfectly fine. But it bucks that trend and only dropped 40. For any movie, that's really impressive. A 40% drop from week 1 to week 2 is super impressive. And then you take into consideration just how big the first weekend movie already was. That is incredible. That's a level of dominance we have not seen in a little while in theaters. But it goes on beyond that because with that weekend, the Super Mario Brothers movie has now become the biggest comic book movie video game movie of all time. And not just by a little. Look at the top 10 here. The number 10 spot is Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. That movie made 312. Obviously, the video game adaptations have had a very different level of success than comic book movie adaptations have, but still. Sonic the Hedgehog made 319 million. Jake Gyllenhaal's perfectly cast The Prince of Persia.
It's a roller coaster.
Made $336 million. Angry Birds made 352. Ray's Uncharted.
Yeah.
Made more than Black Adam.
Woo.
At $401 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 took its franchise trajectory upwards,
Yay.
being the 5th biggest video game movie adaptation of all time at $405 million. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Rampage, that movie should have made bus fare. That movie had no business making more than $100 million, but it had Dwayne Johnson in it. So it made $428 million. Wrap your heads around this. Dwayne Johnson's Rampage movie made more than Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam movie. I still can't believe that.
That movie had no business being as good as it was, though.
No, it shouldn't have been fun. It
Rampage
should not have
was
made
so
any
fun.
money. And it was pretty fun. And it made a decent amount of money. The third biggest comic book movie or video game movie adaptation of all time, Warcraft. A movie that I did not think was the dumpster fire that a lot of people make it out to be. It wasn't great. I wanted better, but I still enjoyed it. $439 million. And up until this past week, the biggest video game adaptation movie of all time was Pokemon Detective Pikachu at $449 million. All good, all great. In 10 days, and 10 days only, the Super Mario Brothers movie has practically getting ready to lap the other ones at $678 million in just 10 days. And you got to understand, I wanted to have this list up here to give that context, to understand that, listen, and just look how much it's by over 200 million more than the previous top film. I mean, these types of numbers are just for this genre, for this category, if you will, of video game adaptation. This is new territory for this entire thing. A 40% drop in its second weekend after a massive first weekend, breaking the all-time video game adaptation record by over $200 million in just 10 days. It's already, the story's already been written. It's done. Super Mario Brothers is the most successful video game movie of all time and is already a massive smash hit, even if it decided to end its run today, 10 days after it opened in theaters. It's already done. The story's written. Now, is there any DLC? Are we going to get to becomes the next member of the $1 billion club? Is it going to be, it's the top movie of 2023? I don't know. Will it get there? Will it hit those types of numbers? Because it's looking great. Chris, Super Mario Brothers is a good movie. I mean, it wasn't quite as good as I was hoping to go in and see a top 5 favorite animated film of all time. Yeah. It wasn't quite that, but it's delightful.
It's fun.
It's entertaining. It pulls on the nostalgia strings. I walked out of that theater having a big smile on my face, singing the Peaches song just like everybody else. But I mean, this level of pure domination that we are seeing coming out of the Super Mario Brother movie is the type of dominance we haven't seen since frickin' Avatar was back in theaters again. What do you make of these numbers and what's standing out to you as being most impressive?
I mean, honestly, when we have that video game hierarchy list there, I love that our top 2 contenders are Mario and Pokemon, because that really is the most recognizable IP that Nintendo has. Pokemon always dominates. I was watching Pokemon Journeys yesterday while I was doing my taxes. It was great. It was a fun time. Love that show. So I love that they've been really capitalizing on what's worked for Nintendo so much, and it also further supports that a Zelda movie is just moments away.
Oh, they gotta go with
it's
Zelda.
It's a cash cow that they're absolutely going to grab. But I think this also is doing so well, and I can only speak to my own personal theater that I go to, is repeat visits too. People love this movie every single weekend. I'm going to get my Starbucks and I go see the Regal. There's always kids dressed up in Mario cosplay. Weekend after weekend still.
I said there was going to be strong repeat.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And they're so excited about seeing it, and they just want to talk to you about all the things that happen in the movie too. It's so great. We're like, have you seen it? Everything about it's so good. Like it's just doing so well with repeat family visits. And also it capitalizes on all that nostalgia too that all of us have for this game, right? There's a reason why everyone still plays Mario Party, still plays Mario Kart. Why all these games are constantly being downloaded. We freaking love Mario. There's a Nintendo World now here in LA that
is always packed.
It's always packed. And honestly, it's usually people upwards of 35.
Yep.
Plus, when you're there, those power bands work in the Nintendo store, which is incredible. So, they're doing great stuff with this property. I'm hoping the second one has a little bit more meat on its bones, but honestly, I don't need much here. I just need Mario throwing shells and shit, and that's all I need from this movie. But I really think a lot of this comes down to just being visually stunning and being something that people want to go see again and again because it's fun.
You also can't ignore some of the other things that we talked about going into Mario Brothers, which was the fact that you got to remember this is a game franchise that is minimum 3 generations long. A lot of people's grandparents, parents, and them played Mario to one degree or another. And no Mario, and no Bowser, and no Peaches. By the way, I've gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole watching some of the Dorkly videos on the dark side of Toad and Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, gosh.
Ooh, some of them are really, really good. But this is a game that has had that multi-generational appeal. It is simple. It's simple. Like we point out, there's not much of a story to the movie, But that's the games. There's not much of a story to the games. Hey, get in that cart and cross the finish line before anybody else does. Do that. Hey, get this steak and cook it evenly on both sides real quick. That's a Mario Party reference, by the way. For those of you who play it and know the aggravation of that, you know what I'm talking about. Fucking thing, son of a bitch. It's just had it. Now, granted, it didn't have huge competition for this weekend. I mean, when we go back over to the weekend box office chart, The Pope's Exorcist, frankly, did better than I thought it would, but made $9 million. John Wick Chapter 4 made 7.9, which of course was in its third weekend, I believe.
But even these drops are all in the 40s. I think that's great.
The drops have been healthy and they've been good. Renfield, I mean, listen, nobody in their right mind thought Renfield was going to make $30 million opening weekend, but I think people expected more than 7.7. So Renfield didn't really stand up strong against it. Air, again, is considered this dramatical thing. Dungeons and Dragons has been out for multiple weeks, making another 7.35. I mean, so granted, it didn't have a lot of competition, but just because there's not a lot of competition doesn't mean people will just automatically go to the movies. People were choosing at $87 million on a second weekend. That's people choosing. I want to go to the movies, and I'm not just going to look for something. I'm going because I want to go see Mario. And just light, fun, delightful entertainment. Guys, the question is for you. Why do you think that Mario Brothers has been so absolutely dominant? Where, I mean, we haven't seen this type of domination, I mean, in a bit. And why do you think, and what do you think is the more impressive number? A second weekend drop of only 40%? The fact that in just 10 days has become the all-time video game adaptation ever in the history of cinema? How big what is the ceiling for the success of this Mario movie? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, MasterClass. With MasterClass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn filmmaking from James Cameron himself, you know, the guy who made 3 of the 4 biggest films of all time. Improve your writing by taking screenwriting from one of the greatest who's ever done it, Aaron Sorkin. Or maybe learn how to make great comedic content by taking comedy by the one and the only Judd Apatow. And many of you guys know I'm a big poker guy, and I recently got a chance to sit down and watch Daniel Negreanu, one of the greatest poker players in the world, teach poker. It was absolutely fantastic. But guys, whatever you're interested in, there is a class for you with over 180 exclusive classes taught by the instructors you know and love. And you can explore lessons in any order you'd like, across your phone, tablet, Apple TV, computer, and on the go with audio mode. Individual lessons range from about 10 to 15 minutes in length that fit easily into your everyday life. Guys, I highly recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass.